Welcome, all my fellow painters of the world, everyone out there, back to another free painting class here. So today's free painting class is going to be a tutorial on how to make and create like an ice cream cone. A very, juicy, mouth-watering, tasty, ice cold, refreshing, all the things. Just a simple ice cream cone with a pretty little cherry on top if you would like. So for today's class, I'm going to be doing this in acrylic paint. You can always do watercolor paints if you would prefer, but I'm going to be showing you in acrylics. As you can see, we might have a little bit of help from my kitty Miss Mia here, who is just going to ever so lovingly get in the way. I'm going to have to put her in the other room in just a second, but before we put little Miss Mia away, get a look at that cute little face, yeah. So before we actually get started, we're going to do a sketch today. I will show you the sketch process step by step. But of course, before we actually go on ahead and do that, make sure you've got all your materials here all ready to go, minus the cat. If you've got a cat or a feline friend hanging around, maybe even a canine friend that wants to, furry little animal that wants to come and be a part of things. Aside from your pet, your supportive animal here, make sure you've got some acrylic colors. Like here, I've got red and white because I'm going to be making a pink ice cream. You can make whatever like flavor you really want to do. You can do like blue or something. You could do like mint, like green or something. Whatever color you want to make it, just make sure you've got that color or a way to mix that color, and then some white for some highlights for that. So sorry, I had to get Miss Mia out of the way here because she was getting a little bit too much in my way. But if you need to mix your own colors, I'm going to be mixing up my own value of pink, which is just a light version of red. So I'm just going to be using white and red to make that color. Of course, we'll also need red for the cherry, the pretty little cherry on top. And then to make the cone color, which is a very unique tan color, kind of difficult to achieve. But I'm going to show you exactly how to do it using yellow and burnt umber. And if you don't have burnt umber, you can use brown or a shade of brown, some type of brown paint to replace that. But you definitely are going to need yellow and then burnt umber or brown to do that. I'm also going to have some blue to the side because we're going to do a little bit of a fun, quick splatter effect in the background, which I do a lot to, just spruce up the background of a lot of my paintings and stuff. So I am going to show you how to do that, and you can do any colors you'd like for that, but I'm going to add in blue for that. Now, aside from that, before we actually get started like mixing our colors and even like painting and stuff, we need to get started with the sketch. So we're going to do a free-handed sketch today. Don't be afraid of it. I know drawing is not everybody's favorite. That's totally okay. Just work with me here and we're going to get through it together. So I'm going to go on ahead and start by making 3 points, and I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm not going to measure or anything on my canvas, or I'm using canvas paper today. This actually might be watercolor paper today, but you can use watercolor paper for any type of painting. It doesn't just have to be watercolor. So I'm going to start by making, and you can do this any orientation of your paper too, you guys. I just want to let you know that. I'm going to do it long ways, portrait mode here. But you can also do this with like square sheets of paper too. That works fine as well. Or you could do it this way, but since it is kind of like ice creams are long, I would do it this way. I would prefer. But we're going to go on ahead and start by making the 3 points, I want to say, of where we're going to start sketching. So I'm going to find about the center of my paper. Again, just eyeballing, it doesn't have to be exact. And then about the center. I'm actually going to go up a little bit, like maybe an inch from the center. And on either side, I'm going to make, these are going to be the widest points of my ice cream cone. And these are going to be the ends of the ice cream scoop itself. Okay. And then aside from that, I'm going to make a dot down here, kind of, again, trying to figure the center plane of the paper the other way. Down here, about an inch up from the bottom, I'm going to make a dot about in the center. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, you guys, not a big deal. So this is going to be the ends of our ice cream scoop. This is going to be the bottom, the very tip of the cone. Okay. Now from here, let's actually go on ahead and start our actual sketching process by bringing in what's going to be our cherry on top, which if you don't want to add a cherry, you can kind of skip this step. You don't have to add a cherry. So we got these 3 points. I'm going to make a 4th point now. I'm going to follow this center line here, like the center part of the page, all the way up. And I'm going to bring it down a little bit from the top. I don't want it all the way to the top. So maybe about 2 inches. I'm going to make another little dot here. Now from here, using this as my guide, I'm going to freehand a cherry here. So we kind of want to make a circle, not too big, not too small. We want to kind of make this rounded shape here, like this on either side, and then we can kind of flan it across the bottom because it is going to be pressed into the ice cream itself. So again, just free-handed shapes here, you guys. Doesn't have to be anything super fancy or super duper complicated. Just trying to keep it simple with your sketch here. And then from the dot we made here, you can go on ahead and create a stem if you want to, that goes this way, just like that. I mean, we know what a cherry stem looks like, right? Just this nice thin curve here. Now from here, let's go on ahead and finish off our scoop. So from this dot to where we ended with the cherry, or if you didn't even make a cherry, you can just kind of guess and make a nice rounded top. We're going to round it all the way. We want this to be a pretty thick scoop, right? So we want to make it nice and rounded from our cherry all the way down to that dot on one side and the other. You can kind of start from the dot and go a little ways up, then you can come back up to the cherry, go a little bit behind the cherry here, and kind of bring it back down the other way until those two lines like meet, like this. And just making it a nice wide rounded scoop on the top. Now from here, we kind of want to make, this is like that classic look you get when you do get the ice cream scoop, that we get those little ridges around the bottom. I think the technical term is they're called feet. At least I know that's what they're called, like when you're making macarons, you know? Some people call them macaroons, but they're actually pronounced macarons. Those little sandwich cookies that are French, you know? That's like called the feet, you know? That like ridge along the bottom. It's the same thing with an ice cream scoop. So we want to go ahead and create that. So I'm going to make kind of just a little bit, very subtle curve on either side of where these dots are, where they ended. Just curve it around like that. And then we can kind of make it a little bit ooey gooey, a little bit drippy in some spots all around the bottom ledge here. We don't want it a super straight line all the way across. We just want to waver it a little bit. Across one way and then across the other. Again, you can make it look like it's dripping a little bit in some spots, like that. Bring it all the way across, like that. Make it nice and refreshing, nice and juicy look, right? Juicy look to it. Now we just need to finish off by making the cone. Yay! See, not too complicated, you guys, right? Nice and simple, the sketch process. Doesn't need to be tricky or anything. So we're going to go ahead and down here from the base of where we made this cone, you can either go, you actually have two options for this, you guys. You can make it straight, like a V shape here, or you can bring it down and you can make like a line here through this dot and then bring it up if you want like a flat bottom cone. I'll erase that. Totally up to you. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make a subtle flat line. I'm going to go somewhere in between. So I'm going to make this like 1 inch, half an inch even line right through this dot we made down here. And then from there on either side, I am going to make 2 lines that curve a diagonal up. Now we want these 2 lines to connect to about where we made these 2 dots underneath this foot, this edge section we just did. So from here, I'm going to jump down here. I'm going to, as best I can, you can do this with a ruler too. If you want to make this really straight, you can use a straight edge, or just eyeball it, sketch, sketch, sketch with your pencil all the way up like this. You can always go back and erase if you need to, clean up your lines a little, just to get a nice, as straight as you can, diagonal line from the base of the cone to the foot or the edge of the ice cream itself. Now we did that on one side, and of course we have to do it on the other side as well. So again, from where this dot is that we made originally, come down a little bit, like here underneath the foot. And then from there, we'll just make a nice straight line as best you can all the way down. If you need to clean up that line, you can. I'll clean up this line a little bit more. But then after that, you guys, boom, right? We pretty much got that. Our sketch is complete for our ice cream cone. So now, we can actually, I'm going to put my pencil aside, we can actually get started with the painting section. So, let's go ahead and mix up the colors we're going to need today. Yes, so I'm going to go ahead and get an acrylic palette out. If you're doing this in watercolor, you can grab like a watercolor palette or whatever watercolors you've already got pre-mixed up. Now from here, let's go ahead and start by using some red. I'm going to put down a red dot that's going to be for our cherry. Cherries are red, so we're not going to do anything to it. We're just going to leave it nice and red there for us. Now somewhere else, let's make up the color that's going to be our actual ice cream color. Like I said, you can make it whatever flavor you would like, so you get to pick, free reign. The process of shading it or adding highlights is going to be the same no matter what. So any color you want to do will be totally fine. You'll be able to follow along with me, but I'm going to make mine pink, so I'm going to do a little bit of red and then quite a bit of white along with that. I'm going to mix up my own pink here. I'm going to leave that there for a second. Using any type of mixing tool you want, I'm going to stir those two together to make a pink hue here. Any type of pink ice cream you want it to be. Could be strawberry, could be, I don't know, raspberry, watermelon, anything pink. Be any flavor you want to imagine it being. I would advise against tasting the paint because it's not going to taste like the ice cream. I know, right? Disappointing. At least I don't think it'll taste like that unless you got like really cool flavored acrylic paints or watercolor paints, which I don't even know if that's a thing. Maybe somebody should invent that someday, but also maybe not because it's probably not really safe to eat these paints. But anyway. Anyway, just mind going wandering in a million directions here. Okay, so now we've got the color of our ice cream all good to go. So somewhere else, we're going to want to do some white highlights on both the cherry and the ice cream itself. So let's go ahead and put down just a nice big old glob of white somewhere that we can use for that. This will be for our highlights. Now we need to make a color for the cone. Remember, like I said, the cone's a little bit tricky to make because we're going to make a nice tan hue, like a golden tan. So to do this, we're going to use yellow. I was looking at the white. We're going to use yellow and preferably burnt umber. If not, you can use brown, but for best results, try the burnt umber. So I'm going to come over here, and I am going to put down a good sized amount of yellow. Somewhere on your palette, put down about 2 pea-sized to 3 pea-sized amounts of yellow. Now, taking our burnt umber, we're not going to add very much of this burnt umber or your brown. Think like half a pea-sized amount. Okay, we really don't want that much, just a small dot to start. We can always add more if we need to. And I'm going to add that right next to my yellow there. I might even have gotten too much. If you feel like it's a little bit more than that, you can push some of it aside. And just take about a half pea-sized amount here, okay? Now from there, we're going to swirl that into our yellow. And it is hopefully going to make this nice golden color. Almost like the color of gingerbread. Now if it starts to get a little bit too dark on you, too much golden hue, too dark, you know, you added too much brown or burnt umber, which is totally normal. That happens a lot because yellow is so tricky to work with, you guys. You can always add another good sized glob of yellow here to line it back up. So don't worry, do not fret, dear friends, if it gets a little bit carried away from you, if it gets a little bit too dark. That is always, always, always okay. Add a little bit more yellow to it. If it doesn't seem golden enough, add a little bit more burnt umber or brown. Just play around with it until you get a color you're kind of satisfied with here. Now, aside from that, we're going to need just some regular burnt umber or brown, whichever you're using. I've already got some here, so I'm just going to add a little bit more to that. Just somewhere on your palette. It actually does not matter where. I'm just putting it next to this one because I've already got some there. And we'll be using that for a little bit of low lights in the cone as well. So a little bit of shading work there. But we will get to that a little bit later. So don't worry about that just yet. Now, from there, I think we've got all the colors we pretty much need for the ice cream in the cone itself. Now, if you would like, you can also do some background decoration first, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how you can go about doing that, just so it's not so plain white, you know, boring in the background. We don't want that. So I'm going to use some of these colors like the pink and the red that I've already got mixed here on my palette. If you want to add some more colors in, we're going to do a splatter effect in the background again. I'm going to show you how to do it. It'll be nice and fun. Super duper fun, really. If there's any other colors not here that you do want to add some like dotted effect to the background, you can add that now. I'm going to add some blue. You don't need a whole lot for the background, so don't feel like you need to get out like a giant amount. Just like a pea-sized amount is definitely enough for this. And again, if you've got like any other colors laying around that you want to use to splatter in the background, you can get those out. You can get out regular yellow if you want to use some yellow. Maybe some purple, green, something. If you want to get out or mix up yourself, you can. But otherwise, I'm going to start by doing the splatter effect. Before we even get started, pause what you're doing right now and make sure, because you guys, this happens all the time with the splatter effect, we're going to literally splatter paint all over the background. And it's not going to stay just on the background, it's going to get on your table or your surface or whatever you're painting on too. So just a friendly reminder before we get started doing this, make sure you've got something under your painting that you're working with here to kind of protect your paint surface, the surface you're working with, if you don't want to get paint on it. I mean, obviously, does it look like I care if I get paint on this surface? No, this is my paint table. This is what this is for, so I don't need to worry about that. But if you're working on like a nice table or something, make sure you've got like a tablecloth, newspapers, something down in the background, because this splatter will travel. It will spread on the surface behind your painting. But aside from that, word to the wise, go on ahead and get your paintbrush wet to start. I'm using a small to medium round head brush for everything today, FYI. You can use that as well. Pretty much any type of brush though, as long as it's kind of small. You can even use a small like flathead one. Will work for this. I'm going to start by getting my paintbrush pretty wet. And then I'm just going to tap it off. I'm not going to wipe it completely. I want it to be pretty wet for this splatter effect. Now I'm going to pick one of my colors. It doesn't matter what color. I'm going to start off with my blue. I'm going to dip into it so it's nice and wet. I've got some of that blue hue on there. You can do this with watercolor as well. It's the same process, same thing. You'll want it to be really nice and wet, especially if it is watercolor. Now once you've got a lot of pigment on there, bring your paintbrush over here. You're going to hold it in one hand, you're going to take one or two fingers in the other hand, and you're going to tap it very lightly like this. And you're going to see these nice small dots appear all over the page, or wherever you're holding it. So you can bring it all around the edges of your sketch here. Tap it quite a few times, get a lot of dots going on in there. A nice subtle splatter effect. You can dip back for more if you want some more. It's okay if it goes on to your ice cream or your cone, because we'll paint that part next, so it'll cover up any little splatters that might get on there. I'm going to clean my brush again, and I'm going to go for a different color now. So that should be nice and clean, but again, I'm just going to tap it off. I still want it to be kind of wet, and dip into my next color of choice, which is going to be red. Back over here. Ooh, those are some bigger splatters that time. Yeah. I'm just going to splatter this all over, all around. Just like that. Perfect. And then I think I'm also going to do pink. So I'm going to clean that off, and then I'm going to, again, tappity tap tap, and just dip lightly into my pink here. And bring it back over. And I'm going to add some pink splatters around. Just like that. Beautiful, you guys. See, the splatter effect is really simple yet effective, I think. It doesn't take a lot of time to do. The more wet your brush is, the more dots you're going to get. And the more dry your brush is to start, the more you're going to get like splatters. So just depending on what you're in for today, what you like, if you want more of like dotted effect or like a real splatter, depending on how wet you want your brush to be. Okay? Now aside from that, I think that looks pretty good for my background. I'm pretty satisfied with that. So now I am going to clean my brush off for real this time. To get it really nice and wet, clean. And then I am going to pat it dry on my napkin, because now I'm going to be working with my acrylic paint and my actual painting itself, so I do want it to be not completely dry, but dry enough. right, that I can use the brush now. Now from here, we can't actually start with like any part of this painting. Doesn't really matter, right? You can go like bottom to top, top to bottom, inside out, wherever you want to start off with. But I think I'm going to break things up into 3 sections. Those 3 sections are going to be, number 1, the cherry. I think we'll keep it simple to start with the cherry. Number 2, the ice cream itself. And then number 3, finally, the cone. So I'm going to go kind of simple to a little bit more complicated, but it won't be that hard, trust me. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my cherry. And to get started with this nice clean brush, I'm going to dip into my red. And I'm going to fill it in with the red. The whole cherry dot here. Just fill it in nice and simple with red. Now you might want to be careful about resting your hand or your wrist on your painting because you don't want to smear that paint in the background that might still be wet from that splatter effect. So you can kind of hover it above, or like what I'm going to do here is just rest it on the inside of the cone where that splatter effect is not really going on. But the more we get moving along in this class, the more that paint will dry and you'll be alright and you won't have a risk of smearing it. But just during these first few minutes, you want to be mindful of that. Because wet paint does take a little bit of time to dry, whether it's acrylic or watercolor, because our brush was really wet when we did that splatter. It might take a little bit of time to dry up compared to regular acrylic paint where our brush is dry when we're applying it like this red. If that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, just ignore it. Alright, you'll be fine. So once I've got this red all filled in, I'm actually going to, without cleaning my brush, this is important you guys, I'm going to dip into my burnt umber or brown, whichever you used over here. I'm going to dip into it very gently. I'm going to come back over to this cherry and I'm going to swipe like a curve along this left side of the cherry, like this, like a C shape. And I'm going to go over it a time or two. This is going to create our low light for the cherry. Just along this left curve, like a big C shape once or twice. You can bring it towards the center, just keep making a C shape until it all kind of blends together a little bit, like that. That's just a nice subtle low light on that side of the cherry. Alright. Now, after that, I'm going to just dab my brush off. I don't want to clean it just yet because I want a little bit of red still on there. But I still want to get that excess paint off. So I'm going to dab my brush off. Then I am going to dip into my white now. Just very gently again. Now from here, I'm going to come over to the other side of the cherry somewhere. And I'm going to make a very simple, very small C shape like this along the upper right hand corner. And I'm going to kind of dab it. You can kind of watch what I'm doing. I'm going to dab it up and down, side to side on this corner like this. Until again it starts to blend and fade out, just like that dark blue light on the other side. This is going to be our highlight for our cherry. So just like that, just dab it a couple of times. It's going to create a really nice highlight there. Once you've done that once, go ahead and I'm going to dip into my white one more time. And now I'm just going to dab and not blend it as much inside of that area. I'm going to make a nice white curve, nice white line there. So it's like a highlight inside of that highlighted area like that. I know that seemed a little bit confusing, so if you need to rewind and watch again what I just did, that's totally okay. But then after that, I will clean my brush so that we can go on ahead and do our cherry stem. And to do our cherry stem, I'm just going to take this burnt umber or brown, whichever you use. I'm going to dip into it, and I'm just going to trace over this line with it. Just trace over the line from top to bottom or bottom to top like that. Simple, simple. That's all you need to do for the cherry stem and actually the cherry itself. That's good to go. That's done, right? Done it in the bag, right? I'm going to clean my brush off there. And don't worry, you guys, if that line is like really kind of tripping you up because you're like, oh my gosh, this is such a thin line, I can't get my brush to make it that thin of a line. Don't worry about it. Your cherry could just have a little bit thicker stem. It's not a big deal if it turns out a little bit thicker than you would like. Just try your best to make that line kind of thin. Other than that, don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. Now, from there, let's go on ahead, and like I said, your cherry's done, you guys. Like, you're already one step of the way there. You're already 1/3 of the way there. Actually, even more than that if you did the background. That was like another, that made it 4 parts. So now you're halfway there, right? But we do have a lot of space to fill, a lot of white space here. So we're going to move on to the ice cream part itself, okay? And this is where whatever color, it really doesn't matter what color, you guys. You don't have to do pink like I'm doing. Especially if you're like taking this class again. You can take this class again and again, FYI. If you're taking it again, you can do a different color for your ice cream this next time. Or if you want to, just your first time, if you want to do blue, like Blue Moon or Superman. Oh my gosh, I love Superman ice cream, you guys. That was one of my favorites. Or just whatever flavor you want your ice cream to be. Go on ahead and make that color. Use that color. So I'm going to go ahead, and since I'm doing pink, I'm going to take this color and I'm going to start from this left-hand side. This is important because we're not going to fill it all in with this color, like straight up pure this color. Let's start from the cherry and go all the way down this side. So go a little bit underneath the cherry here as best you can. Down this left-hand side like this. Trying to get up to the edges very carefully. And then we're going to start to, as we do this, we're just kind of filling in with color at the moment, but as we start to migrate and fill in further and further towards the right-hand side of the page, we're going to start adding some more highlights to this color. Whatever color you're using, doesn't matter. We're going to use white to add highlights, because you can add white to add highlights to any color. That's why it doesn't matter what color you're using. It'll work for any color. But let's go on ahead and get this going a little bit further. And I want you to kind of try to keep this curve going on here. Again, this like elongated C shape, top to bottom. Kind of like moon crescent shape. Come under the cherry here, all the way along this way. Just like this. Now once we get about, I'd say this is about 1/3 of the way across this whole section, 1/3 of the way across this section. Now, you can dip back for more of your color, but then I also want you to dip your color, or your paintbrush rather, into the white. Dip it right into your white here. You kind of swirl the end of it in the white a little bit. It's okay if you get some of that color in your white palette, on the white on the palette, doesn't matter. Now come back over here where we left off. And again, going along this curve, keep curving like this elongated C shape, up and down where you stopped, so it starts to blend in with where we stopped into a lighter shade. Now it's turning into a lighter color for us. Now from there, again, you can dip a little bit into the color you're using, but then a lot of white. We're going to dip a lot of white onto the brush again, and we're going to keep doing this until we get all the way, well, the rest of this area filled in, right? But it's important to keep this texture going of this curve, because we know a scoop is like a round surface, right? It's round to the surface. So we want it to look like highly reflective. So we want it to look like kind of concave or really curved on the surface. So that's why we want to keep going in this curve motion with our brush, to mimic the curve that the ice cream would take shape of in real life, if that makes sense. If it doesn't really make sense to you, that's okay, just keep moving with me here. Again, dip into the color you're using, dip into the white again. Up and down, curved, and to the right. And again, get underneath your cherry as best you can. When your brush starts to dry out, dip again for your color and then get a lot more white on there again. Just up and down, curved, and towards the right. Now, once we get about 3/4 of the way there to the end of filling in this section, I'm going to challenge you guys a little bit, don't panic. But I am going to challenge you, next time your brush starts to dry up and you're about, like where I am, about 1/3 to 1/4 of the way left to go, without dipping in for more color, just dip straight into your white this time. Bring your brush back over with that white. And now from there, we're gonna keep going. Again, the same curve motion, up and down with a curve towards the right-hand side. And then once your brush starts to dry up once again, no more color, just dip back into the white. Up and down and towards the right. Make sure if you got any little drippets down here, make sure we fill those in. Don't want to miss those. Up and down and towards the right, and then one more time, or however many more times it takes, I guess, dip into the white to fill in the rest of this area. So we're making it even lighter and lighter as we go along. Don't forget to fill in this little curve here on this side. Yes. Again, just challenging you guys a little bit to try something different, to really make that light on this side. Now from here, we're going to challenge you even more. I know. Don't panic though, you guys. Like I said, you're totally fine. You can totally do this. Just stick with me here. I know it can be tricky at times, but I believe in you and you're doing awesome so far, okay? But now, without cleaning the brush again, let's dip into the white one more time. Quite a bit of white on there. Now let's add some more highlights, but this time more direct. Those were kind of subtle, just filling in with color all the way across. Now we're going to really add some dimension to the ice cream itself by adding some really prominent highlights. So the first highlight we're going to do is we're going to make a nice curve without blending it in all the way across here and under this way. So again, mimicking this big C shape that we've been doing. And I just want you to go over it once or twice, not a lot. It's gonna feel kind of sticky on your brush, that's all right, that's what we want. Just like that. So basically from underneath the cherry here, kind of where I started, and then all the way down here, like a big C shape this way. Again, we're just adding some quick dimension to our ice cream. Now let's dip in for some more white. We're gonna do that again in another area. So the next one, let's do, there's really no rhyme or reason to the way I'm doing this. I'm just trying to add some areas of dimension. I'm going to go along the foot here. So I'm going to kind of make a curve here and then kind of like an L shape here, but I'm going to kind of wiggle it at the bottom to mimic the shape of the foot here. So I started all the way over here, made again, starting off with that C shape that we've been doing. And kind of curving it up and down and this way until the brush starts to fade out. I can curve it up a little bit to kind of get that faded along the edges. So again, just go over it a time or two just to kind of fade out the edges. You don't want too much paint on the brush. It might get carried away from us a little. Just like that. Then let's do one more highlight here to make it really nice and shiny. Just along, like right up along this edge here, this leftmost edge. From the cherry down, almost all the way to where we just ended here. Again, just go over it a time or two with your brush so it starts to fade out. Just like that. Again, it's going to feel really sticky to the touch, and that's okay. That's actually what we want. It's going to help it blend together on the background a little bit better. Now, after that, I am going to go ahead and clean my brush, but now we're going to add a little bit of low lights. Those were our highlights there with white. Again, whatever color your ice cream is, it doesn't matter. We were just using white, remember? Now we're going to go back to our actual color that we were using originally. Again, whatever color your ice cream is, mine just happens to be pink, yours could be blue, something else. I'm going to dip back into this color, and now I'm going to do kind of what we just did, but I'm going to add some low lights in a couple of different areas. So I'm going to kind of mimic this C shape we did here, and I'm going to kind of start where we ended off with the tail end of the C down here, and I'm going to make a reverse C shape that goes all the way up and along this edge on the right side now. Again, this is kind of hard to explain, so if you just need to watch what I'm doing first and then rewind and do it for yourself, you can. Not a bad idea. But again, I'm just kind of making like a reverse C shape here. So again, we're making this look like a big curve in the center of the ice cream. Now I'm going to dip back into that color again. Let's do kind of like the same thing we did on the other side here as well, like with the foot area. So I'm going to kind of go along the edge of the foot here and then bring this all the way down and kind of curve it until it fades out. Again, tricky, I know, to make it fade out like that, but just try not to have too much paint on your brush if you can help it. And then just go over it a time or two. Just kind of, you can kind of dab your brush here, you guys, along the edges of this whole area to kind of fade it out. Just kind of dab around. I got some drips here. I'm going to kind of dab over top of those as well, so just to give them a little bit of extra color. So like that's kind of like a hook shape here, like a hook that comes up and around along this curve. And then just dab around all of that area. That's a really good way to help blend it out a little bit easier if you're having trouble there. Again, with any of these highlights and lowlights, it helps to not have too much paint on your brush to start with. Now I think the last lowlight we'll do here will be underneath the cherry itself. So again, dip back into your original color here. Come back over, and now let's just go underneath like this side of the cherry. Like this. Just go underneath it a time or two. And then this will be a little bit easier to blend out because it'll kind of fade into the background better. You just kind of go over that a couple of times to kind of curve and just blend it down and outwards, like down and to the right here. Yeah. Again, you can dab your brush a little bit, do this dabbing motion if you're having trouble with the blending process. Just like that. Perfect, you guys. Beautiful, beautiful work. Take a breather. If you need to pause for a moment, give yourself a little bit of a rest just for a second, you can totally do that. Otherwise, go ahead and clean your brush again, because now you are actually really close to the end. So we just have one section left to do, probably the largest section, but in any case, it is the cone area. So I'm going to clean my brush off, wipe it nice and not too dry, but dry enough to work with. So for this cone area, we're going to use this tan color we mixed up, this golden hue here, and we're going to kind of do the same thing we did with the ice cream up here, where we kind of went from dark on one side and then kind of lined it up as we kept going towards the other side. We're going to do that here, except we're going to start in this upper left-hand corner. And then the further we come down, I'll let you know about halfway, we're going to start, again, bringing white into the picture, literally into the picture here. And we'll keep lightening it up as we come all the way down to the bottom corner. I know it's quite a bit of work, kind of tricky, this technique, but just work with me here, you guys. You totally got it. You got it. So I'm going to dip into this color again. Well, to start, we haven't done this color at all yet. I meant, like, once again, I am dipping my brush into another color, you know, I guess. But anyway, I'm going to start up in this corner here. Just nice and simple for now, just using this color, straight up using this color, not doing anything, not adding anything to it. Just adding this golden color for the cone. Trying to get underneath all these curves here, like where we stopped with the ice cream. Yes, so that we fill it all in with color like this. Now again, I'm going to keep going downwards and to the right. You can go up and down or side to side with your brush strokes here, just as long as we're getting like at a diagonal. Again, underneath this ice cream area, filling it in. We won't start doing anything crazy until we're about halfway with filling in this whole area. Take your time, you'll be fine, right? Just breathe, a moment to relax, and just enjoy the painting process. I'm so excited for you guys to be able to admire your work after this class. Just step back and just be like, wow, I did that, right? Even if things don't always go your way, because trust me, as a painter, as a fellow painter, I get it. Like, it doesn't always go the way we want them to. But you're still putting in the hard work and the effort, and you're trying, you're giving it your all, and you're practicing, and that's what counts the most. So just try to enjoy the process as best you can. Try not to get too frustrated with yourself when it gets hard. Again, just enjoy it, right? That's what we're here to do. We're here to enjoy something we love, which is like painting. We all love to paint. That's why we're here. Okay, I'm about halfway, actually a little bit over halfway across here. I am going to do what we did before. I'm going to dip into that color, so the tan. Then I'm going to dip into the white. Get quite a bit of white on there. I'm going to go up and down, and again, add a diagonal here this time, along where I stopped, and I'm going to start blending this together. So it's going to start lightening up the more I come across. Then I'll dip back for more tan, even more white, into my brush. Up and down at this diagonal, underneath the, not the cone here, but the ice cream area. Up and down, at a diagonal down to the bottom ledge here. And once my brush starts to drip, again, a little bit of tan, a little bit of white. And down and at a diagonal. And all those creases, all those edges, so that the cone looks really nice and full here. Now once you've got like just a sliver here left, then we'll just dip into the white and finish it off, so it'll be really, really light there. Like a really, really light yellow. Again, just going up and down with my brush to fill all that white space. Just like that. Perfect, you guys, perfect. Step back, admire your work. Beautiful, beautiful work, you guys. Now the next step, you could actually call this one, you could call it quits here. If you're like really tired or you got someplace to go, if you're crunched for time, you can always call it here and be like, that's good to go. Otherwise, we're gonna move on to do our final step here, which is kind of tricky. That's why I said if you don't want to keep going on, that's okay. But I do want to challenge you to just give it a try. So this next step, I think it's fun. At least I think it's fun. Go on ahead and clean your brush again. We're going to kind of create like the divots or like the indentations, I guess, of like what it, in a waffle cone, right? It's called a waffle cone because it looks like waffle texture. So the more texture I think we add to the cone, the even more realistic it'll look. So that's what we're going to focus on in this next step. But it is going to be kind of tricky. There's going to be a lot of thin lines involved. So if you're kind of like a little bit worried about that, you can skip this step. But if not, go on ahead and we're going to use our burnt umber or brown for this. So dip into that just a little bit on the tip. We don't want too much because we don't want it to glob up on us. We want it nice and thin on the end of the brush. Now we're going to come over here and you can kind of watch me do this a couple times first. We're going to start from the top. And we're going to make almost like stitch lines, I guess. Like it looks like stitching all the way across the cone in a curved motion though. Okay, because we want the cone itself to look curved. So again, you can kind of watch what I'm doing here. Like 1/2 inch long lines. Again, nice and curved. We're not doing them straight across. We're going to kind of curve them down and then back up like that. Okay? And then again, let's dip into that again. We're going to do quite a few rows of this. Keep them spaced out a little bit though, because we're going to kind of make them into a box shape in a minute. But we kind of want to do them underneath, kind of mimicking the lines we just did. So again, this is where we want to keep them kind of nice and thin. But again, this curve, like a curved line of stitching all the way across here. Like that. I'm going to dip back for more. And again, we're going to repeat this pattern all the way down the cone. But I'm leaving a gap in between each of these sections, like a 1-inch gap. Like that. Now the further you get down, the more it'll be like, you might lose that one along the edge. Like for example here, I did one here. You couldn't see it up here because of that drip was in the way, but down here I left it off because we're getting thinner and thinner, right? Shorter and shorter lines, so like here, 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 maybe a little bit there off the edge. Back for more. And again, just keeping about an inch space in between each of these. Just like this. Until we get all the way to the bottom of our cone. Droop, droop, droop. Sound effects, not mandatory, but are encouraged. And then down here, I'll just do those two and leave that blank at the bottom. Awesome, awesome, you guys. Now from there, we're going to add some more lines the other way now, because again, we want this to look like box, like waffle shape almost. So I'm going to dip back into that brown or burnt umber. And now from here, I'm going to do lines like on the left side of each of these lines, a thin line down. It doesn't have to extend all the way down to the next set of lines, just down enough so that it's starting to look like a box shape all the way across here. Again, it's that waffle texture is what we're going for. So just making these lines down. I'll dip back for more, I need a little bit more on there. And again, trying to keep the lines as thin as you can. That's what makes this a little bit tricky, you guys. All the way across. On all of these rows. So take your time doing this as well. Like I said, making these thin lines can be difficult. Give yourself some grace with this. Remember, you're just practicing, just giving it a try, and that's what counts. When you get down here to the bottom, you'll probably not see very many of those lines there. Now from there, I think just one final step, and then we'll be pretty much done with this, I think, with this section. So going ahead, and I'm going to clean my brush off one more time. Now we're going to add some white lines on the other side of those boxes, but just on a few of them, not on all of them. So you see where we kind of have this light half here on the cone, where we did the highlights? That's where we're going to add even more highlights on top of that. Let's go ahead and dip into that white again, and let's start from the bottom this time. You can just see what I'm doing here. I'm going to make some white lines on the other side of these boxes, all the way up. But again, just in this lighter area. So you can kind of guess, it doesn't have to be exact. It's about halfway, the right half of the cone here. We're going to add all of these white lines. Just opposite of those dark ones we did that were up and down. So we're making white ones that are up and down, but on the right side of these little boxes, these little box shapes. All the way up, about halfway over, and then we won't do all of the ones that are on the upper half. Just like that, you guys. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now I'm going to clean my brush off one final time, and then I am going to step back and admire my work, as you should do as well, because you guys are complete with this ice cream painting class. I know this one was a little bit tricky, a little bit more for intermediate painters. If you're a beginner, you might have struggled a little bit, but I want you to know that's totally, totally okay, right? It's always, always good to challenge yourself, you guys. And even if you don't consider yourself a beginner and you struggle just a little, even a little bit with any part, know that that's totally okay. And it is really good for you to challenge yourself, to push yourself further, to try new things, to try difficult techniques. And it's really only going to make you better in the long run as a painter, okay? But if you really did enjoy taking this class with me, of course, I have so many other similar painting classes over on what I like to call Canvas Academy. And Canvas Academy, you guys, is an all-encompassing online painting platform that's got lots of videos. We even have like downloadable files, especially if you're not someone who likes to draw. If the sketching part of this class was like not your thing, do not worry, because on Canvas Academy, you actually, for most of the classes, you have the option to download what's called a sketch file. You can also learn how to make similar things to this, like juicy cupcakes and all the things. Lots of different fruits, flowers, even landscapes, and how to paint portraits. It's all available over on Canvas Academy. So I would love to see you guys over there, and I would love to see you join us on your next painting journey. So again, I hope you guys really enjoyed this class, and I hope to paint with you all again very soon, my fellow artists.